Only a few things in wrestling are as impressive as a good undefeated streak. Off the top of my head, Chris Masters' traps and Kevin Nash's hair. One way to get a wrestler over as a certifiable badass is to have them go on a long run of matches without taking an L. And then when somebody does beat them, they also look like a monster. And that's how it works all the time, right? Right? Sadly, no, as wrestling companies throughout the ages have consistently messed up the ending to unbeaten runs, causing embarrassment instead of creating stars. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 worst endings to wrestling undefeated streaks. Join us. By the way, this list does not include pay-per-view specific streaks, so no Undertaker here. On with the list. Number 10, Chris Jericho on AEW Dynamite. During AEW's early days, no one was presented as strongly as Le Champion Chris Jericho. Not only did the leader of the Inner Circle become the first ever AEW champion at All Out, but he went on a lengthy undefeated streak that claimed victims such as Darby Allin, Kenny Omega, and Cody Rhodes. This all changed after Full Gear 2019. Jericho and Sammy Guevara challenged Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky for their recently won AEW Tag Team Championships. SoCal Uncensored retained the gold after Sky pinned Jericho in a move that nobody saw coming. Mainly because it was a bit of a dumb idea. Jericho hadn't lost once since the company formed, and many expected his first defeat to come when he dropped the title. Instead, it was given to a wrestler who was already a champion in a random tag team match on Dynamite. The company tried to follow up on this by having Sky challenge Y2J for the world title, but the crowd just didn't get behind him. I mean, at least Sky will always have this accolade to celebrate, and we think that deserves a little bit of the bubbly. Wow, that's not been popular for a long time, has it? Number 9, TATANKA on WWE Superstars. Playing on wrestler Chris Chavis's real-life Native American ancestry, a rare piece of self-awareness from WWE at the time, TATANKA was a popular upper mid-carder during the early 90s. For almost 2 years, Mr. Bison, that's what the word actually means by the way, was unbeaten in WWE. I mean, he was actually only unbeaten on TV, but this is wrestling, so give over. This run of dominance came to an abrupt end on the October 30th, 1993 edition of Superstars, when TATANKA was finally beaten by Ludwig Borger. The Finnish powerhouse had recently debuted in the company under an anti-American gimmick, of course, and was on his own unbeaten run when he clashed with our man. Sadly, TATANKA had his legs thoroughly cut out from under him, losing in dominant fashion to the budget Brock Lesnar. This is a case of WWE hitching their wagon to the wrong horse. If Borger had turned out to be a bigger star, then maybe this moment wouldn't be on our list. Unfortunately, he would leave the company just a little while later, making all of this for nothing. Number 8, Bo Dallas on Raw. Bray Wyatt's real-world little bro, Bo Dallas, made quite the splash in NXT when he reigned as their top champion for 280 days. He followed this momentum up by going on an unbeaten run upon his main roster debut in May of 2014. And my word, did he beat some big names. Fandango, Santino Marella, R-Truth, they all fell to Dallas's mighty hand. To his credit, he also beat the likes of Dolph Ziggler and Kofi Kingston, so fair play. To immediately remove that credit, though, the streak came to an end on a random episode of Raw against R-Truth, somebody he'd already beaten. It seemed as if WWE just completely gave up on Bo's push before it had even got going. The 18 and Bo gimmick he was running with had some serious potential, not as a main event idea or anything, but as a solid mid-card one at the very least. After a loss to Truth, it was downhill for the Bo lever. Number 7, Charlotte Flair at Fastlane 2017. Is a streak really a streak if there are so many asterisks next to it? Well, WWE thought so throughout 2016 and 17, and who are we to argue with them? Between her call-up to Raw in 2015 and the Fastlane show in 2017, Charlotte Flair did not lose a match. Well, she didn't lose a match on pay-per-view. Well, she didn't lose a singles match on pay-per-view. The company made a huge deal out of the Queen being unbeaten on big shows, even though Charlotte had actually tapped out to Sasha Banks during a tag team match at Battleground in 2016. Everyone thought that this fake streak was going to end at the upcoming WrestleMania 33. Well, I guess we're all idiots because WWE ended it a month earlier for no decent reason. Whilst facing Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship, Flair looked to have the match won when the boss pointed out that she had got a handful of the champion's tights. This allowed the hugger to take the advantage and pin her opponent. So, the streak that wasn't a streak ended before the biggest show of the year? Christ alive. Number 6, Mr. Perfect at WrestleMania 6. As his surname would suggest, Mr. Perfect was pretty bloody good at wrestling, so good that he went unpinned or submitted on TV and pay-per-view for 15 months. Of course, there were all the house show losses to factor in, plus he didn't win the Royal Rumble in 1990, but like we said earlier, this is wrestling. Then, all of a sudden, Perfect's luck took a turn for the worse, and he got beat twice in the space of a month. He was pinned for the first time on regional television by the Ultimate Warrior when the two legends faced off for the Intercontinental Championship at Madison Square Garden. Okay, losing to Warrior, that's not too bad. Now what about the other one? Brutus Beefcake? You gotta be joking me! Sadly, the man of 1004 gimmicks handed Perfect his first nationally televised loss at WrestleMania 6. Did beefers gain much from this? Hell no. Did Perfect suffer as a result? Hell yes. Still, Hogan wasn't going over in the main event, so I guess they had to give his best bud a win instead, brother. Number 5, RYBACK at Hell in a Cell 2012. An undefeated streak versus a lengthy title reign. It is the formula that made WrestleMania 3 such a success and has worked for countless other programs across wrestling history. However, for every Hogan versus Andre, there is a RYBACK versus CM Punk. The straight-edge superstar was nearing a year as WWE champion when he met the big guy inside Hell in a Cell. RYBACK had been unbeaten since his main roster debut, unless you count all the Skip Sheffield stuff, which we definitely don't. So WWE faced a dilemma. Do they end RYBACK's streak or give the incredibly green performer their top prize? Well, luckily for them, there was a way out. A really, really dumb way out. Just when it looked like the rookie had the match in hand, the referee of all people hit him straight in his nads. The referee in question was Brad Maddox, a wannabe wrestler who wanted to make a name for himself in storyline. Well, mission accomplished, kiddo. You will forever be known as the guy who ruined Hell in a Cell 2012. Well, and maybe one other thing. This incredibly stupid decision put the RYBACK's momentum to a screeching halt in a clear case of WWE booking themselves into a corner. Number 4, Asuka at WrestleMania 34. Whilst WWE had to hide Bo Dallas's NXT losses to make his streak work, no such fibbing was required when it came to the Empress of Tomorrow. Come WrestleMania 34 in 2018, Asuka had not been pinned or submitted since her very first NXT outing all the way back in October of 2015. That is 914 days. Just don't ask us how many matches that actually was, because the internet has about a billion different answers to that. Asuka had booked her spot at Mania by winning the Royal Rumble, take that Mr. Perfect, and had selected SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte as her prey. After an excellent match, Asuka won the title, continuing her undefeated streak until she dropped the belt to a young up-and-comer to build them up. Just kidding, obviously Charlotte won. With little build-up or reason, the most impressive modern undefeated run in WWE came to an end. Charlotte did not need this feather in her cap, and the mystique that surrounded Asuka vanished in an instant. Number 3, Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2002. 10. No, Ty Dillinger hasn't just turned up. That is the number of people who have pinned or submitted Brock Lesnar in his WWE career. That list contains some of the greatest technical workers of our generation, but do you know who the very first name on it is? It's the bloody Big Show. Just 3 months after winning it off The Rock at SummerSlam, Lesnar put his WWE Championship on the line against the Behemoth at Survivor Series, despite some stark warnings from Paul Heyman. Had Brock not disregarded the wise man's words, we might have avoided this disastrous chain of events. After less than 5 minutes of match time, Heyman turned on his charge to join up with the future star of the Big Show show. One chokeslam onto a chair later, and Lesnar got pinned for the very first time, on TV anyway. I mean, do you really need me to explain this to you? The hottest young star in all of wrestling getting fed to the Big Show at one of the lowest points in his career? That doesn't sound bad to you? Fine, suit yourself, but stay away from me, alright? Number 2, The Fiend at Super Showdown 2020. Bray Wyatt has had some truly awful things happen to him across his WWE career, but few are as bad as the time his most impressive creation was fed to a middle-aged man in tiny shorts. Under his Fiend persona, Wyatt defeated Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship in Saudi Arabia at 2019's Crown Jewel event. The spooky kettle had already gone off the boil following the train wreck that was Hell in a Cell a month earlier, but fans were hopeful that Bray's title reign would be a chance to reset. And then, Goldberg came along. A match was booked for WWE's return to Saudi Arabia in February of 2020, pitting the champion against the company's resident nostalgia machine. Many expected the undefeated Fiend to breeze through Goldberg to continue his run of dominance, but the Crown Prince has no time for your logic. Big Bill beat Bray in just 3 minutes to win the title, snap the streak, and end any semblance of credibility the Fiend had left. This was a rough night, but it turns out the new champion was just getting his revenge from 22 years earlier, because number 1 is Goldberg at Starrcade 1998. Wrestling's most famous undefeated streak, not belonging to a man named Mark, has to be the one Goldberg went on in WCW between 97 and 98. The widely accepted number of wins in a row is 173, but this could put a hot air balloon to shame with the amount that it's been inflated. Regardless of the actual figures, Goldberg's run of dominance was absolutely awesome. He would come out with his team of security guards, hit a spear, then a jackhammer, then be home in time for tea. A perfect formula that was impossible to screw up. Until they did. As WCW's World Heavyweight Champion, Goldberg was put in the main event of Starrcade 98 with the belt on the line. His opponent was Kevin Nash, getting some help from Scott Hall and a taser in the process. And just like that, WCW's biggest homegrown success story was knocked from the top of the mountain. Makes you want to put your entire arm through a limousine window, doesn't it?